I'm 99 years old. Not many of us make it this far. My doctor tells me every day is borrowed time, and honestly, I've made peace with that. But you know what keeps me awake at night? It's not my own mortality. It's knowing that some of you watching this are about to waste another year the same way I wasted 17 of mine. And I can't let that happen without speaking up. Let me start with something simple. When I was your age, and you're probably somewhere in your 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s, I made a decision. It seemed small at the time, almost insignificant. But that one decision cost me decades of my life. And if you're not careful, you're about to make the same one. I promised myself I'd start in January. Not today, not this week. January. I said it every year for 17 years. And every single year, January came and went, and I did nothing. I had this vision of myself transformed, healthier, happier, more connected to the people I loved. But January always felt too soon, or too late, or wrong somehow. December would roll around and I'd think, well, I've already waited this long. Might as well wait until next January when I can really commit. Do you know what happened on my 45th January? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But life didn't wait for January to keep moving. My daughter graduated college. My best friend went through a divorce. My mother got sick. My wife needed me more than she ever had. And I was still sitting around waiting for the perfect time to start living the life I actually wanted. The tragedy of January isn't that it's a bad time to start. The tragedy is that we use January as an excuse to keep waiting. Let me take you back to 1980. I was 40 years old, and I remember sitting in my office thinking about all the things I wanted to do. I wanted to write. I'd been writing in notebooks since I was a teenager, but I always told myself I'd get serious about it when things calmed down. I wanted to travel to Europe. My wife Margaret had been dropping hints for years, but we always said when the kids are older, when we have more money, when work settles down. I wanted to spend more time with my father. He was getting older, and I kept telling myself we'd have long talks someday. Really deep conversations about life and regrets and all the things fathers and sons never say while they're busy being men. And I wanted to learn guitar. This is embarrassing to admit, but I'd always dreamed of picking up a guitar and actually playing it, not professionally, just for the joy of it. But I thought I'd miss the window. You're supposed to learn those things when you're young, right? So what did I do with all these desires? I made a list. I said, January 1981, that's when I start. That's when I'm finally going to take writing seriously. That's when Margaret and I will plan that European trip. That's when I'll make time for Dad. That's when I'll buy that guitar. January 1981 came, and I didn't do any of those things. I'm not sure why. There was always something in the way. A project at work, a problem with the house, some obligation I couldn't get out of. And each time I postponed, I made a new promise. Okay, not January, but February, or March, or maybe June, when things slowed down. June never felt like the right time either. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I was in my 40s. The right time is never coming. Not next January, not next month, not when you have more money or less stress or better circumstances. The world doesn't operate on your timeline. Your life doesn't pause while you wait for conditions to be perfect. I spent 17 years waiting for January. 17 New Years where I made promises to myself I didn't keep. And do you know what's sitting in my desk right now? That list. The same list I made in 1980. I finally did learn guitar in 1997 when I was 57 years old. And you know what I realized? It would have been so much easier to learn at 40. I had better hearing, better dexterity. My mind was sharper. I finally went to Europe. In 2003, Margaret and I spent 2 weeks in Italy, and it was magnificent. But it came 14 years after she first suggested it. 14 years of her waiting, hoping, wondering if I ever would. I eventually wrote too. Started seriously in 1998, got some pieces published. Nothing earth-shattering, but real, and I loved every second of it. But I spent 18 years not doing the thing I loved most because I was waiting for the perfect circumstances. My father died in 1995. I was 55 years old. We never had those deep conversations I always planned. Oh, we talked, but it was always surface-level stuff. The weather, how the old neighborhood had changed, Sports, never the real things. When he was dying in that hospital bed, I finally tried. I said, "Dad, I wish we'd spent more time together, really talking." He looked at me and said something I've never forgotten. He said, "So do I, son, so do I." That's the conversation I wasted 35 years postponing. Now, I'm going to tell you something that might sound harsh, but I'm 99 years old, and I don't have time to be gentle anymore. If you're waiting for January to make changes, you're not disciplined, you're not thoughtful, you're scared. And fear is just postponement wearing a different mask. We dress up fear in reasonable-sounding language. I need to plan better. I need to have more resources. I need things to be more stable. But what we're really saying is, I'm not ready to be vulnerable. I'm not ready to fail. I'm not ready to disappoint myself. The thing about January is that it feels official. It feels like you're finally taking yourself seriously. But January is also when failure is most acceptable. Everyone's making resolutions. Everyone's starting things. So if you fail, well, you'll just try again next year, right? Wrong. Each time you fail, something inside you dies a little. You stop believing your own promises. You become someone who says one thing and does another, and that erodes something fundamental about who you are. I became that person. For 17 years, I was the guy who talked about what he wanted to do, but wasn't actually doing it. Do you know how that feels? It's a low-level shame that becomes part of your identity. You start to feel like a fraud, like you're not serious about your own life. Here's what changed for me. I was 57 years old. It was 1997. I had a heart attack, not severe but enough to get my attention. I was lying in a hospital bed, and a thought hit me that was simple and devastating. What if I don't get another January? Not in a dramatic way. Just the quiet realization that there were no guarantees, that the next year wasn't promised, that every time I said January, I was gambling with my own existence. So I did something radical. I didn't wait for January. I picked up a guitar in March. Right then. No ceremony, no grand promises. I just drove to a music store and bought one. I was terrible at first. My fingers hurt. I could barely hold a proper chord. But I was doing it. I was actually doing the thing I'd been talking about for 17 years. And something shifted. I want you to understand what I'm really saying here. It's not about New Year's resolutions or discipline or motivation. It's about the sacred space between knowing what you want and actually becoming the person who does it. That space is where your life is. Not in January. Not in some future version of yourself that has everything figured out. It's in the messy, imperfect present moment where you make the decision to take yourself seriously. When I finally started writing seriously in 1998, I didn't wait for the perfect circumstances. My life was still chaotic. Work was still demanding. The house still needed repairs. But I wrote anyway. Some mornings at 5 in the morning. Some evenings after everyone went to bed. I wrote badly at first. My sentences were clunky. My ideas were half-formed. But I was writing. That's the thing nobody tells you about creating change. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. You just have to start while you're terrified and uncertain and unprepared. I finally prioritized my father. After my heart attack, I started calling him every Sunday. Not because my schedule suddenly opened up, my work was still demanding, but because I realized that if I didn't do it then, I might not get to do it at all. We had some incredible conversations in those years before he died. Not long conversations, not perfect conversations, but real ones. And I got to tell him I loved him while he was still here to hear it. Margaret and I took that trip to Europe. We borrowed money to do it. We were stressed about the expense. But we went anyway because I finally understood that the cost of waiting was higher than the cost of the trip. So here's what I want you to understand as you're thinking about 2026. January is coming, And you'll probably feel that pull, the one that says, next year, that's when I'll change. That's when I'll finally do the thing I've been putting off. Don't do that. Don't use January as a postponement device. Don't let the new year become another excuse. Because here's what happens when you do. You waste another year. You become a year older. The people you love become a year older. Your dreams become more distant. The window for certain things gets smaller. I'm 99. I've buried so many people I loved, friends who said they'd travel someday, siblings who said they'd reconnect when things calmed down, colleagues who said they'd start that project after retirement. They didn't get another year. They didn't get another January. But you might. So what I'm asking you to do, and I want you to really hear this, is this. Choose one thing, just one, something you've been saying you'll do, something that matters to you, and don't wait for January to make it official. Do it now, in December, in the remaining days of 2025, or on January 2nd, or January 15th, just not on January 1st like you're waiting for a bell to ring and your real life to start. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your parent, your spouse, your child, a friend you've been distant from. Stop waiting for the right moment. The right moment doesn't exist. Make the call, send the message, say the thing you've been afraid to say. Maybe it's something you want to learn, a skill, a language, an instrument. Don't wait until you have the perfect schedule or the best teacher or the most expensive equipment. Start badly. Start unprepared. Start now. Maybe it's somewhere you want to go. Stop saving for someday. Stop waiting for retirement. Stop telling yourself you'll do it when finances improve or work settles down. Take the trip. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to happen. Maybe it's something creative you want to pursue. Writing, painting, music, photography. The world doesn't need another perfect work of art. It needs you to create something honest, imperfect, and real. I want to tell you something about time. It's not democratic. It doesn't give you extra because you're good at planning. It doesn't wait. It doesn't negotiate. It just moves forward, whether you're ready or not. When I was younger, I thought I had so much of it. Time felt infinite, like there was no rush, like I could postpone my life indefinitely and still have room to live it later. But I'm 99 now, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, you don't have as much time as you think you do. Not because you're going to die tomorrow. Maybe you'll live to 99 like me, but the people you love, the people you want to spend time with, they might not. That friend you've been meaning to call, they might not be there next January. That parent who keeps asking when you'll visit, their window is closing faster than you realize. That dream you keep postponing, it gets harder to want as time goes on. The motivation fades. The person you were who wanted it, they change. They compromise. They settle. I don't want that for you. I'm telling you this because I have maybe 1 year left, if I'm lucky, and I've lived 99 of them. I've made every mistake imaginable about time and waiting and postponement, and I don't want you to do the same. So here's my challenge for you as 2026 approaches. Don't make another January promise. Don't add another year to your list of wasted time. Do something radical. Do something now. Do something that scares you. Do something that matters. And do it not because it's January. Do it because every day alive is a day you get to actually live your life instead of postponing it. You know what I'm most grateful for at 99? Not the achievements, not the accomplishments, not the things I accumulated. I'm grateful for the conversations I finally had with my father before he died. I'm grateful for learning guitar at 57, even though it felt too late. I'm grateful for the time with Margaret in Italy, even though we waited so long to take it. I'm grateful for the writing I finally did, even though I started late. But more than anything, I'm grateful for the years after I stopped waiting, for the last 42 years where I've actually lived instead of just postponing living. That's what I'm asking you to give yourself, not someday, now. If this means anything to you, I want you to do something today, not tomorrow. Today. Text someone you love. Make a plan you've been postponing. Write down the one thing you're actually going to do in January. And I mean actually do, not just think about. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because they're probably waiting too. They're probably making promises to themselves that January will be different. It won't be. Not unless they decide right now that waiting is over. I'm 99 years old and I'm out of time for New Year's resolutions. But you're not. You still have time to do the things that matter. So please, don't waste it the way I almost did. Subscribe if this landed for you, leave a comment and tell me what you're going to do before January 1st. Tell me what you're finally going to stop postponing, and then go do it. Time is the only currency that matters, and you're running out. Make it count.